starting with nothing and then doing really the hard yards, like going to businesses and asking if they would stock, and it's a completely new product to get on the shelves. So it's hard to gain a reputation, I guess, from the ground up.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are going to head back to RIso Diner, a place that I recently wrote about and had a really beautiful meal. It's owned by someone we've had on the podcast a couple of years ago, Paolo Arlotta, and Paolo's chef there is Sandra Seah. Sandra, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hi, Dani. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm so excited to learn about your work at RIso, but also the other cool stuff that you do. Give us a little rundown on your work as a chef.
So currently I'm working as the sous chef at RIso, which, like you said, it's like a cute little Italian vegetarian wine bar in Fitzroy. And I've joined RIso just about a year ago. And yeah, I've been there ever since. What
was it that attracted you to work at a little Italian vegetarian wine bar?
So I've always been drawn to cooking and working with vegetarian food. I've been doing that for most of my chefing career. But yeah, the emphasis on working with seasonal produce and like the ever-changing menu based on what's available during the time was definitely a big driving factor. And then just like along with the low waste ethos and just striving to be as sustainable as possible, which I think those were definitely the key points in leading me to coming on board, really.
I mean, tell us a bit more about that. I mean, what is it about RIso that is, angled towards sustainability and low waste?
So we always try to use as much of the product as possible. For example, scraps that people normally would throw away. For example, at the moment we are fermenting the guts and the seeds of the pumpkin, and then turning that into a powder to top one of our risottos, and just doing that and then trying to sort out our bin system properly. Like we compost, we sort out our recycling between cardboards and glass and stuff like that. And yeah, the fact that it's vegetarian is definitely a strong point for me.
Is your appreciation for vegetarian cooking and dining related to like largely to sustainability?
I would say at the start it's always more for the animals, because I was vegan for 3 years, even though I'm not anymore now, but I still eat predominantly vegan, and I just love when like it's ethical. Like I've nothing against meat eaters and stuff like that, as long as everything is like sustainably and locally and ethically sourced. And yeah, sustainability is definitely another huge factor that plays into it.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was chatting to Paolo for the review that I wrote about RIso, he was saying, you know, he could relate better to someone who ate meat but made sure it was, you know, ethically raised and, as sustainably produced as possible. He could relate more to someone who was eating like that than someone who was buying all their produce from the supermarket.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, like I still eat eggs in here and there, but I'm purchasing it from a really reputable company like Honors Eggs, where it's just ethically sourced and like meat here and there. But as long as they're doing the right thing, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. It's just about reducing, I would say.
Yeah. Shout out to Honest Eggs, who we featured on our producers podcast. They're just, awesome company, great people, and absolutely beautiful eggs. So Sandra, I fell in love with the broth that you do at RIso. It really is a very simple looking little cup of liquid, but it really transported me. Can you tell me about that?
So the broth, what we do is we get pumpkins, like all different kinds of pumpkins from Somerset, from Chloe and Somerset. We roast it, and then all scraps, like I said before, all scraps, like the ends of the onions, celery, carrots, pine mushrooms when we make our pine mushroom ragu, the stalks, a whole bunch of stuff. We add it in, lemongrass, and then we basically simmer that throughout the whole of Thursday, when we do our prep. Yeah, the next day we clarify it, season it with this very beautiful Japanese rice vinegar, and soy, and the finished product is what you had on the other night when you came in.
What do you think of that I suppose, as something that's on a menu, but also as something to eat? What do you think about it?
I absolutely love broths, and for me, it's definitely one of the best dishes on the menu. It's hard for people to, I guess, come in and just see a cup of broth, and it's so unassuming. But once you taste it, I guess you can kind of understand. There's a lot of work that goes into that tiny cup of broth. And yeah, I think it's a great dish.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really struck me about it is that it's sort of an expression of the moment, but it's also, it sort of takes you back in time as well, because that broth, like a master stock, those flavors have been building and layering. And yeah, it's just so interesting. I just love that with food. And I think also with I suppose you get a lot with wine, where it's like you're drinking something in the moment or experiencing something in the moment, but it really connects you through time to, other actions and seasons and soil. It's it's just really thought provoking, I think.
Yeah. And it's definitely, and also it's seasonal again, because Palo also comes up with a very amazing winter broth, which uses whatever's in the season. Obviously we're coming into winter now, but it's just broths and just amazing. We're using whatever produce that we can find from the farmers.
So, Sandra, RIso's only open a few days a week. So what do you do with the rest of the time?
So I actually recently started my small business. It's called 6 Scorpion, about 3 months ago. So during my time, like the 3 days, because I work 4 days at RIso, and the other 3 days I'm pretty much working on my small business, which has been really tough, but we have been striving at it for a while now, and our goal was to sort of create like an upmarket, high quality brand that comes up with killer condiments that everyone would love. And we just launched our first product, our signature crispy chili oil. And yeah, we're just excited to see where that leads us to.
Yeah, well, I can definitely give one big vote and endorsement for your crispy chili oil. It's super delicious and is part of one of the dishes at RIso as well. Chili oil's having a bit of a moment. What do you like about it, and what are you going for? Like, what's your point of difference?
Yeah, so chili oil is definitely coming up. There's so many companies coming up with it at the moment. But for me, I think my point of difference is I make everything really, really fresh. We use fresh shallots, fresh garlic, basically fry that to perfection, adding a multitude of spices and ingredients. And it's super chunky, super crispy, but it's also matte fresh. I basically make a batch every week. So when someone orders it, it's probably made that week or the week before, and more than half the jar is basically shallots and garlic. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel I'm pretty addicted to chili oil and kind of put it on 80% of the things that I eat. But what are some of your favorite ways to enjoy it?
So classic, we always go dumplings, like the standard everyday eggs, avocado toast, put on pastas, pizzas, literally everything really. Like, because I'm a big lover of spice as well and chili. So I'm that person where I always put chili on my food. So it basically just goes on everything, like same as you. I just put it on everything. Some chefs hate it, but it's kind of an addiction, I would say.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So you mentioned that it's been tough getting the business up and going. What are some of the challenges and pain points that have been there for you?
I think just starting a business from the ground up to begin with is extremely hard. There's a lot of back end work that I wouldn't know require until I actually started the business. And yeah, because like starting with nothing and then doing really the hard yards, like going to businesses and asking if they would stock, and it's a completely new product to get on the shelves. So it's hard to gain a reputation, I guess, from the ground up. But after seeing the reviews I've been getting and the feedback I've been getting from friends and family and even my neighbours and stuff, I just had to do it. And I've always been, to be honest, I've always been very interested and passionate about starting my own business. So this was the perfect opportunity. Because I have a bachelor in business as well and marketing, and my parents will be proud that I finally put that to use. But it's definitely hard work, but it's rewarding to see the trajectory and how it just is growing day by day.
Good on you. It's really impressive and exciting. I mean, a lot of chefs, I guess, started their side hustles in COVID. Restaurants really, I guess, saw the value in having these other product lines. Was that one of the things that motivated you? Or, I mean, or was it really that this has just always been something you want to do and this was the right moment?
Yeah, it was definitely always something I wanted to do, and I should have started it during lockdown, really. But for me, COVID wasn't really great, and I didn't really have much motivation there. So I launched pretty late. I only launched 3 months, about 3 months this year, 3 months ago. But yeah, just when I made it for friends, families, and everyone just couldn't stop raving about it. And I even gave it to a couple chefs who were pretty good chefs and just got really good feedback. So, like even the other day, someone actually emailed us, reached out saying that they go through a jar a fortnight and ordered basically 12 jars for himself, and that was pretty overwhelming, and that was great. Yeah, like the little things like that really play a part and just push you like to keep going, because sometimes there isn't really much traction and it can feel quite demoralizing. But yeah, when things like that happen, it's just amazing. Shout out to Marcus. If you're listening, thank you.
Yes, Marcus. Chili oil obsessive, just like us. That's good. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so interested in your journey to doing what you're doing now, because you've got this other, I guess, tertiary educated background. Can you tell us about your what's your backstory as a chef, Sandra?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Singapore, and then I moved to Melbourne about 11 years or so now. I came for high school, and then I did my bachelor's in marketing, didn't really put that into effect, did my cert in commercial cookery, and that's when I started actually properly working in restaurants, and that was kind of what ignited my passion for cooking when I started actually working in the industry, because you learn so much just by being in the kitchen. So since then I've just been working in kitchens, and here I am today.
It's I mean, you mentioned that your parents will be glad you're putting your degree into action. Has it been, as a immigrant, as an Asian woman, has that been a big conversation with your family, and I suppose indeed with yourself, to take that perhaps less travelled path or a more unconventional path? Yeah.
I think for me, I was never really sure what I wanted to do. I still am not 100%. I'm still finding my way each day. And yeah, with my parents, I think it kind of came as a shock, because it's not really the route that people from Singapore go down, I guess. Like my mum was an accountant, and my dad was also doing his own, like a very traditional journey, I guess. And mine was, like before this, I was a bartender. Like, we don't do that in Singapore, really. And yeah, but like they're fully supportive. They're proud of me always, and they're great, really.
That's so good. Great to hear. I mean, have you, people sometimes talk about hospitality as, a pretty challenging place for women. How have you found it?
I think hospitality in general for both men and women is extremely tough. but like you said, I think it's amazing that we are seeing more women in the industry getting recognised, especially more women of colour as well. Like, it's amazing to see that it's getting more prevalent, and to see that the public and the mainstream media is kind of like acknowledging their talent and skills. And yeah, it's always happy for me to see diversity in the industry. But hospitality is definitely tough, and you've got to be really strong to stick with it, I would say.
I mean, what can you see? I mean, are there any changes that you would like to see that you think would make it, an easier or a safer or more secure or happier place?
Yep, I think there are a lot of issues and stigma still now surrounding mental health. I think it's definitely getting better, but it's still hard to break that barrier, I guess. Like, it really should be of the same importance as physical health. For example, like, let's say if someone breaks a bone, there's no questions asked. But if someone was going through something really tough and needed a day off, it maybe wouldn't be recognised on the same level, and sometimes even criticised for it more often than not. So I think if everyone just needs, like, to have a little bit more empathy, check in on each other, and just be kind, especially after what has been going on in the past few years, I guess that would be a huge step for the hospitality industry. And then just if every business strives to provide a very friendly and a good working environment, showing appreciation, respect for employees of all positions, and just letting them know that they're killing it if they are. And yeah, I think it's all these little things that really add up and make people continue working hard and stay in the industry, because it's something it's very hard these days, especially with the hospitality industry and probably all industries in general, about staff shortages and stuff like that. It's really hard. So yeah, I guess that's my point of view.
No, I love that. I mean, that's so well said, so well articulated. And, you know, as you say, you know, the hospitality industry has moved out of lockdowns. It's been super tough and such uncertain times. And, you know, who knows how, you know, which point of that journey we're on still. But of course, you know, with staff shortages, the industry reopening, people are keen to dine out. It's like, yeah, that recuperation and recovery has almost been swamped just by how busy everybody is and how much pressure there is to be at work. I mean, how do you think that can be balanced? I mean, do you think it is just that kindness, that kind word? Like, I mean, or are there other things that could be done?
I think it's hard to talk about mental health, I guess, with, let's say, your boss or your manager. And I don't know, it's hard to, like, if you needed a day off, but then the thing is you can't really take a day off because there's no staff. But that I don't think I really have a solution for that, because it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, it's so hard because there's no staff to cover anyone and stuff like that. So you kind of have to push through, I guess. And yeah. I don't know with that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it is just such a conundrum, because I suppose even, you know, when your managers or bosses are kind and understanding, then on the one hand, that would make you feel like you could go to them with your troubles more. But on the other hand, you probably feel like, you know, you really don't want to let them down. You have that sense of connection and obligation as well. So I can imagine, yeah, it's just must be, yeah, just really challenging in the moment and day to day for people who understandably have still got a lot of stuff to work through that we, you know, with what we've all been through over the past couple of years. Yeah.
And it's definitely very tough for them as well, because just for them trying to find staff, and it's tough for everyone. So it's like, I guess everyone just has to try their best and try to be there for each other. And that's pretty much all we can do, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I know you're in the kitchen, but RIso's a pretty small and connected place. Like, what are you sort of seeing or feeling or hearing from customers about, how they're, how are they eating out at the moment? How are they, what sort of energy are they bringing into restaurants?
I think we do get a mixed crowd, but people who come into RIso always, the main thing they say is they love the food, because the food's pretty good, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, especially like meat eaters would come in and they will be shocked that it's vegetarian and everything's so good. I can't really say too much on that because I'm predominantly in the back of the house. I don't really interact with customers as much as Paolo Yossi does. But yeah, all I can say is that people were pretty pleased when they come in and eat at RIso.
Yeah, I would definitely say that if anyone has in their life people who are still doubtful about how complete and satisfying meat-free eating can be, then they really need to go eat with you guys at RIso, because it's just such a joyful and connected experience, and everything is super delicious. What are you loving cooking at the moment, Sandra? And what are you thinking? What do you think you're going to love through winter?
So broths definitely always, even in summer, I think, and that's always a big one. To be honest, I'm not cooking a lot at home just because I am so busy. But yeah, at the restaurant, I always love, because our menu's always changing week by week, if not every couple of weeks. I always love cooking the new dishes because it's something new and something I'm learning. But yeah, I love making the pine mushroom ragu at the moment. Great dish. And the broth. The broth is really good. And yeah.
Yeah, so good. And I know you very much occupied with what you're doing at the moment, but if you could look forward, Sandra, and, think about what kinds of things you'd like to do in the future, what sort of visions come before you?
So with regards to RIso, I'll just be doing what I'm doing. I know Paolo does maybe have some exciting stuff in the works, but that's definitely something that he will have to speak for himself. And with regards to my small business, we already have another product in the works, which is actually my grandmother's recipe. I'll let that off really, because that actually isn't really a recipe, because she's that kind who they don't measure anything, does everything by eye, and it always just comes out perfect. I don't know how. So if I do actually find the perfect balance of this sauce, then we'll have another killer product coming out, which I am genuinely as obsessed with our crispy chili oil. So I've been really striving at that, I guess, just because it's so new as well, and it's kind of like my pride and joy at the moment. And yeah, just seeing people enjoy it and telling me and messaging me all these good things really does make me feel really good. And yeah, just working at RIso and working at my small business, and that pretty much occupies all my time now when I'm not aware.
Yeah, I can imagine. Look, Sandra, it's been such a pleasure to speak to you today, and hear about your job at RIso and also Six-Eyed Scorpion. Congratulations on what you're creating. I'm really excited to follow your journey and see what comes next.
Thanks so much, Dani. Thanks for having me.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.